Big, fake, zombie wiener, average-sized, Ray Fiennes wiener. Together they create a balance of visceral intensity and simple humanity. 28 years later, The Bone Temple is a film all about balance, showing us a balanced view of humans in crisis. The horrible compared to the hopeful. The film has absolutely deplorable acts of violence, some torture scenes that are sure to be a turnoff for some viewers. Not me though, I'm a tough cookie. I've seen things. But on the other hand, it also shows us a poetic, beautiful display of humanity. Zombie films don't typically show the world as anything other than a absolutely horrible place to be. But Bone Temple is an exception. It shows us the misery and the bliss, making it an interesting film to analyze. Welcome to the first episode of Themes on the Screen, the show where we watch a movie and uncover the messages within by dissecting the narrative and the characters to see what it's really all about. The film is a balancing act, switching between the Jimmy cult committing atrocities and a Dr. Ian Kelson treating an alpha infected he has named Samson. In order to properly see how these two relate and bounce off of each other, let's first see what each one is all about. Starting with the Jimmy cult, since it's how the movie starts off as well. The presence of the cult tells us that even when you think the state of humanity can't get any worse, some religious pricks will show up and just prove you're all wrong. Now, the Jimmys are Satanists, with their leader, Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal, believing himself to be Satan's favorite son. His followers, fingers as he calls them, obey him unconditionally. Spike finds himself to be the newest addition to the cult and is forced to watch the horrors that the group enacts. You see, Spike was the protagonist of the first film, and I'm not going to get into intensive detail about that. It was a whole lot of shenanigans, mom dying, dad cheating on mom. To put it bluntly, Spike's already had a bit of a rough go of things. If that first film was about Spike learning and accepting death, then this film is him accepting life. He's already met Kelson, a good man who has maintained humanity in the darkest times and is even trying to evolve it spiritually with his reimagining of accepting death. So it's only natural that Spike meets the opposite, Jimmy, a man who despises human life and seeks out its end, his methods being the worst possible way to accomplish this goal. Seeing both of these perspectives, it's a natural part of growing up. You see the world as it is, filled with both light and darkness. The cult also shows us the cruelty of man, worse than any beast. Let's play a quick game of Would You Rather. Would you rather be an infected, where you get to run around super fast, have really cool looking eyes, and get to be naked all the time, or get the skin ripped off your body while you're still alive? When hell and earth become one and the same, man remains a greater fear than any demon spawned. This wasteland is not a threat to them, as they can defeat the infected with ease. They have no greater mission of continuing humanity or even settling down for their own sake. They treat this as no man's land, where all is fair game. In fact, it's Jimmy's right to purge souls. They travel in search of victims, not solitude or peace. Serial killers on a constant hunt for people already vulnerable. But of course, we cannot forget the religious context in which they exist in. Satan, Jesus, Muhammad, Poseidon. It doesn't really matter which spirit you believe in when you're using it as an excuse for your actions. I say it doesn't matter because when you place your own beliefs into your God, then is it really the spirit you're worshiping or just manipulating to create a rationale? Jimmy uses Satanism as a tool to control his fingers. I think he believes that Satan is his father, and he does hear a voice in his head, but I think he knows that the conclusion he draws, that the voice is his father, definitely makes his job as a cult leader quite easy. People want to believe in something, especially during a crisis. Jimmy is not only a bad person, he's quite possibly the worst that a person can be. Murdering people for enjoyment, people that are, again, already in a vulnerable position, while subjecting others to watch and forcefully partake. He's normalizing and glorifying this torture and death. I appreciate that the film doesn't do this. It shows violence very intently. It's shown as a horror, a tragedy, something to make you wince and cringe. The only moment of cool violence involves Samson after coming out of his infected haze, a moment that feels earned. The torture scene in the barn could have been much more intense and graphic, but they chose to not glorify it. Even Jimmy's demise isn't glorified. Jimmy and his cult are shown grossly evil. Their scenes, down to each individual shot, have an air of nasty to them. There is no natural beauty here. Dirty faces, facial scars, rotted teeth, homemade torture masks, bloody knives, vomit. Everything that can create a bad vibe is present in these scenes. But thankfully, we have dancing with the zombie hung like a horse to make us enjoy life again. Dr. Ian Kelson runs an ossuary, a memorial to the dead, as he calls it. The Bone Temple. Except it's a good thing. Beautiful, in fact. The first 28 years later deals with all of this, accepting death and recontextualizing it, using what remains of someone after death in a new way. We learn from him that he himself has accepted death, likely has for a while. He does this because he wants to. He refers to it as his work. He's making the most of these dark times by cleaning up the lost souls, caring for them after death. The only thing someone can do when you couldn't care for them when they were alive. He's a good man who saw all this death and wanted it to be turned into something. That is what humans have always done, created rituals around death. He may appear crazy on the surface, but he's more human than anyone else alive. Kelson befriends an infected after realizing it visits him for the morphing darts he shoots at him. Kelson only kills when he has to. He could kill the infected, but he finds it fascinating that it seems to have learned something, gained a behavior all would have thought impossible. He acknowledges an exchange, a temporary truce, leading to a friendship. It's their relationship that shows us the rest of life's magical nature. There's a moment early on in the film when we first see Ian where he goes to his abode and undresses. This shows a quiet vulnerability and realness to his character that carries on throughout. The seemingly bizarre and overbearing amount of nudity in this film actually serves a purpose. Samson and Ian share moments of peace, dancing, singing, gift-giving, the rawest, most true forms of love for life. Our love for music is mysterious, primal, natural, yet intense. To dance is to be free. To dance together is to love all that is, to appreciate life, decorating every moment in rhythmic, natural beauty. Wide shots show off the landscape, the green fields paired with the bone pillars, a balance of earthly beauty and human consciousness manifested in physical form. Other forms of life is shown to us in a way that makes us appreciate it, giving us a love of nature. The rain falls and Samson feels it on his torn skin. They are alive. Samson's lack of clothes highlights an archaic nature. The aspects of life that are shown to him, the ones that he appreciates, are equally archaic. Not in a caveman type of way, in a hardwired in our brains type of way. And yes, I am rationalizing why there is a huge cock in this movie. The rain, dancing, moon. What's more simply human than being curious and infatuated by the moon? His first words are indicative of a natural human curiosity that is just fun to watch. Samson falls in love with details. Details that we all have seen, that we see all the time in fact, but only few stop and appreciate them. Ian does, which is why he was the perfect match for Samson to regain his humanity. With both storylines described, now let's see how they relate to each other, and most importantly, why. Why are these two stories being told at the same time? What is the movie trying to tell me? The film intercuts between these two stories, making its pacing another balancing act of intense cult nonsense and somber, peaceful zombie friendship. The worst thing versus the best thing. It wants the audience to feel bad, then good, then bad again. It's a never-ending roller coaster of emotions. Until they finally converge. We get some amazing juxtapositions. The torture versus moon scenes, for example. In the same land, humans are decimating their own kind for their own sick enjoyment, while genuine progress is being made in the future of humanity, all under the same moon. I just love the way he says moon.
Moon. Say it again. Moon. Say it again. Moon. Say it again. Moon. Say it moon.
Beauty balances with agony. The worst thing that the cult does is skin people alive in a barn. Meanwhile, Samson is learning to eat berries and wipes his hand on his loincloth. Again, it's detail. He smushes the berry, feeling the texture of it, and then eats it, and then he almost instinctually wipes it on his cloth. It's these beautiful acts, these little human rituals, things that we overlook all the time, but are what makes us human. It's so beautiful. I love it so much. The balance tells us that life is peace, laughter, violence, and fear. It's a yin-yang, a cursely balance. One that we wish was swayed for more good than bad, but this is what we get. It says you cannot have the good without the bad. The good is only good because of the bad. That bad only seems bad because of the good. Ian is a good man because Jimmy is a bad one, and vice versa. Unfortunately, it often feels like this balance is a fantasy, and that the bad overpowers the good. The film shows us why that likely is. The bad ends up taking advantage of the good, as we see with Jimmy threatening Ian to obey him, forcing him to perform so he may tighten his grip over his fingers. Ian is easily bent to Jimmy's whim because he would never stoop to his level. So a part of the balance is the clash of good and bad. Each side challenges the other, forcing each to adapt and either double down or change their ways. When Ian meets Jimmy, he picks up on the fact that Jimmy is psychotic. He hears voices in his head and believes his dad is Satan. Ian is currently treating Samson, and after this conversation, perhaps even due to it, he has the epiphany that the infection may be causing the carriers to hallucinate, entering into a state of psychosis. Ian could have treated Jimmy, but chose to take the risk with treating Samson, solidifying their friendship as a genuine bond and telling us that maybe there are some men too far gone. Is it worth treating Jimmy, or just doing what he says and moving on? If Jimmy is too far gone because of how evil he is Ian too good? He allows himself to be taken advantage of without even considering other options. Is this another aspect of the balancing of the world? The ones evil beyond belief are balanced out by those good to a fault. Other aspects of balance are present in Ian and Jimmy's conversation. Jimmy is a Satanist, Ian an atheist. Ian reminisces on the order of the old world, something he has clearly tried to bring to this new one, while Jimmy is chaos incarnate, against any order that isn't controlled by him. These two are on opposite ends of the spectrum in their beliefs on humanity. When I first saw this movie, I was not expecting to watch something deeply philosophical. The poetic nature of life and death, both being shown to us to their fullest, is not something I was expecting from a sequel to a movie that was a sort of legacy sequel to a movie that already had a sequel but wasn't that well received, and the first one is sort of like a cult classic. But on that note, this whole film is a subversion. The concept of the Bone Temple makes it seem spooky and Satanist adjacent, but in fact it couldn't be further. You want the cult to get some massive comeuppance, but they don't. Most are taken care of quite easily, and even Jimmy's crucifixion isn't shown to us. We only hear the hammering and then see him after, as to not glorify this torturous act. You might have thought that Samson was going to make his appearance in the climax earlier and save the day, but no, he doesn't show up until everything is over. Spike, our main protagonist of the last movie, takes a bit of a back seat here, focusing more on Ian and the devilish acts of the cult. It's a movie that catches you by surprise, expecting a zombie action film, but getting a showcase of human nature. I say it catches you by surprise, but also if you're familiar with these movies, specifically the first one, then you kind of know that that's sort of what these are all about. They're framed as simple, fun zombie films, but then you watch it and it actually makes you rethink your entire life. As this story comes to a close, Ian reminds us all of something very important.
You're not.
Nothing is.
No one is. There's just us.
After all is said and done, Satan, the infected, Moon, it's just us. The horror genre never disappoints in thought-provoking themes. Rather than a typical theme, usually posed as a question, this film opts to show this moral showcase balancing act of life, giving us a way to see the world. A hard truth. Hard like a penis. Will I ever cover any other movie in this franchise which is equally complex and rich in these types of themes? I don't know. This is just like how we roll here. We will just do a random movie that's a sequel in a trilogy that isn't done yet. You never know what's coming next. Coming like a penis. That was too much. I think I need to stop. Check out my latest short film, link in the description. Bye-bye.